and Gopi Jana Balava Girivaradari Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banacha Yamuna Tira Banacha Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari. We're going to put the verse up. Now, I see we're planning, because there's so many sets already made, but make sure the ribbon is tied really tight. And with the ones when on Sunday, you pick it up and it's falling apart. And you got to crank it really tight, twist it around extra so it stays. When you put the first time, you twist it twice and then go around and then tie it tight. What's the verse today? 37, 38. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Idam Bhagavatam Nama Purana Brahma Samitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishrayasaya Lokasya Danyam Swastaya Namahat. It's Bhagavatam, and we know it's just like the sun, right? Text 37, we'll just read it and we'll chant together 38. Bhutanam Naba Adinam Yad Yad Bhavya Vatararam Tesham Paranu Samsargad Yata Sankyam Gunan Vidu. O gentle one, of all the physical elements, beginning from the sky down to the earth, all the inferior and superior qualities are due only to the final touch of the glance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's a conclusion of yesterday's science class, right? That's the conclusion everywhere in the Bhagavatam, that no matter what is being discussed, it comes down to that there's nothing happening without Krishna. Okay, the next verse, 38. Ete Devaha Kala Vishnu Kala Mayamsa Lingina Nanatvat Swakriyanisha Prochu Pranjalayo vibhum. Ete devaha kala Vishnu kalamayam salingina nanatvatsva kriyanisha prochu pranjalayo vibhum. Ete devaha kala Vishnu kalamayam salangana nanatvatsva kriyanisha prochu pranjalayo vibhum. Prochu pranjalo vibhum. Okay, ladies, anybody? Ete devaha kala Vishnu kalamayansa langita nanatattva kriyanasha prochu pranjalayo vibhum. Can't see it? Ete chamsa Shupayanjalo vibhum. Ete, all these physical elements. Deva, the controlling demigods. Kalaha, parts and parcels. Vishnu, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kala, time. Maya, external energy. Amsa, part and parcel. Lingina, so embodied. Nanatvat, because of various. Swakriya, personal duties. Amsa, not being able to perform. Prochu, uttered. Pranjalaya, fascinating. Vibhum, unto the Lord. Translation: the controlling deities of all the above-mentioned physical elements are empowered expansions of Lord Vishnu. They are embodied by eternal time under the external energy, and they are as parts and parcels because they were entrusted with different functions of universal duties and were unable to perform them. They offered fascinating prayers to the Lord as follows. Purport: the conception of various controlling demigods who inhabit the higher planetary systems for the management of universal affairs is not imaginary as proposed by persons with a poor fund of knowledge. The demigods are expanded parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, and they are embodied by time, external energy, and partial consciousness of the Supreme. Human beings, animals, birds, etc., are also parts and parcels of the Lord and have different material bodies, but they are not the controlling deities of material affairs. They are rather controlled by such demigods. Such control is not superfluous. It is as necessary as the controlling departments in the affairs of modern state. The demigods should not be despised by the controlled living beings. They are all great devotees of the Lord, entrusted to execute certain functions of universal affairs. One may be angry with Yamaraj for his thankless task of punishing sinful souls, but Yamaraj is one of the authorized devotees of the Lord, and so are all the other demigods. A devotee of the Lord is never controlled by such deputed demigods who function as assistants of the Lord, but he shows them all respect on account of the responsible positions in which they have been appointed by the Lord. At the same time, a devotee of the Lord does not foolishly mistake them to be the Supreme Lord. Only foolish persons accept the demigods as being on the same level as Vishnu. Actually, they are all appointed servants of Vishnu. And that's the second offense, right? I think the names of the demigods are equal to or independent of the holy name of the Lord Vishnu. So many Hindu temples, they have, all the gods, and depending on, there's one in Bangkok, it's a Durga temple. So in the front altar, they have a big Durga deity, but then along the side, they have other demigods, but they also have Vishnu and Krishna and, little alcoves. So they're thinking Durga is supreme and Krishna is just something else. So there's a lot of confusion in the world. And then the majority of people never heard of the demigods very much. Although in every tradition, every traditional religion and cultures of the world, the American Indian, so-called Indians, they had the same demigods, the Romans, the Greeks, the Norse, but whoever has been, educating us for the last years is just saying it's all mythology. There's no such thing. It's just like saying there's no one in charge of the the Con Ed or whatever it is here we get electricity from, or it's all just happening by chance, right? There's someone in charge, and he knows everything, and he's supervising all the time. And then there's so many workers and so many other people. So the demigods are in charge, and they have so many servants. And next paragraph. Anyone who places the Lord and the demigods on the same level is called a Pashandi, or an atheist. The demigods are worshipped by persons who are more or less adherents of the process of jnana, yoga, and karma, the impersonalist meditators and fruitive workers. The devotees, however, worship only the Supreme Lord Vishnu. The worship is not for any material benefit, as desired by all the materialists, even up to the salvationists, mystics, and fruitive workers. Devotees worship the Supreme Lord to attain unalloyed devotion to the Lord. The Lord, however, is not worshipped by others who have no program for attaining love of God, which is the essential aim of the human life. Persons averse to loving relationships with God are more or less condemned by their own actions. The Lord is equal to every living entity, just like the flowing Ganges. The Ganges water is meant for the purification of everyone, yet the trees on the bank of the Ganges have different values. A mango tree on the bank of the Ganges drinks the water. A nimba tree also drinks the same water, but the fruits are different. One is celestially sweet and the other is hellishly bitter. The condemned bitterness of the nimba is due to its own past work, as the sweetness of the mango is also due to his own karma. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Tanaham dvishyata kuran samsareshu naradaman chippan yajashram asubham asurasheva yonishu. The envious, the mischievous, the lowest of mankind, these do I ever put back into the ocean of material existence, the various demoniac species of life. Unquote. Demigods like Yamaraj and other controllers are there for the unwanted, conditioned souls who always engage in threatening the tranquility of the kingdom of God. Since all the demigods are confidential servitors of the Lord, they are never to be condemned. Even Krishna doesn't condemn, like Indra did such a, he's, trying to destroy all the Braj. And Krishna just told him, don't do it anymore. But he knocked down his pride, which is the most painful thing for puffed up people like that. But it didn't cure him of his attachment to his job and his position. So he's always getting upset if somebody is performing tapasya or giving big charity or something. So now we're caught up, right? Hopefully in this book distribution fever. And I just had another class and they asked me to talk about the importance of Prabhupada's books, which of course is unlimited. So I looked up a few verses, like the one, Poor Narkosanodita, that this Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam has arisen just like the sun to give light in the dense darkness for those who have lost their way in the dense darkness of the Kali Yuga. Prabhupada was a torchbearer, that people are just in the dark. We can see that, especially at that one place there on the 42nd Street. So many people are just literally lost and just spinning around and looking at their phone and trying to figure out where their train is. But that's how they all are, even the ones that seem to be really the materialists who really have it together and they're making rocket ships that come back and land safely and, all these different things that they're doing, manipulating the material energy. Compared to the mystic powers of the demigods and stuff, it's very nothing what these people are doing. To us it looks really fantastic. What's really the amazing thing is that devotees can distribute books in the midst of all this madness. So Prabhupada wrote in the purport, this society is formed, or no, this is a letter I think yet. No, this is a purport. Letter to Tamal Krishna, 1977. This is a few months before Prabhupada left. This society is formed for the purposes of devotees coming together to advance in Krishna consciousness and to give others, those who are innocent, also the chance to meet Krishna. But how can we really meet Krishna unless we read the book, right? Otherwise, so many people come and they have no idea that this is really Krishna, really a person. one year I was in New York and there was an exhibition at the Museum of Natural History. It was a very big exhibition. I guess it was going around the world. It was called Hinduism. No, it was called Darshan, an introduction to Hindu devotion or something. So they were showing how India, there's little shrines everywhere and people doing pujas and, and then they had interviews of different successful, so-called successful Indian people, a doctor and a professor and a rich businessman, and they were showing their little home altars and darshan. And they all said the same thing. They all said that this statue is not God. It's a conduit or something to connect you to whatever God is somewhere, Because they're afraid to say that, because the Western people, the Christians and Jews and the Muslims, think that the biggest offense is to think that, you can have a form. Actually, the Bible doesn't say that. It says, I don't know if the Indian people don't know the Bible so much, but when Moses came down, he went and got the Ten Commandments. When he came back, they were worshiping a golden calf they had manufactured and praying to get money, So he was really angry. And God was angry, and he smashed it, and he said, what is translated from the Hebrew, the devotees told me, he says, you should only worship my form, no other form. But somehow it came in no form. You can't have any statue, you can't have anything like that. So Prabhupada is amazing how he introduced deity worship in all these countries. And people really take it up. Devotees from Jewish, Muslim even, they really like it because they get connected if they read the books. So he says, the books are required for the devotees who come together to advance in Krishna consciousness. And the books are the means for the innocent to find out about Krishna. So books are the basis of this Krishna conscious movement. At the same time, there are many other programs, and all these must go on. The temple leaders have to see that there is sufficient funds for maintaining whatever programs have already been started. Deity worship, prasadam, devotee maintenance, building expenses, festivals, etc. At the same time, they have to try to economize on all these so that the maximum number of books can be distributed. This requires expert management. See how serious it is to be a temple president or something. It's not like an easy job. So Prabhupada favored them, just like Krishna favored Indra. It's not so easy to be the king of anything, Like Prahlad, he said, I was not blessed by the Lord. He made me a king. This is not a blessing. So much headache, managing all the rakshasas of the universe. But he took the job because he thought he could make all the demons into devotees. Because if you're the king, if you're the government, you can control the education system and everything. And one king, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, became the guru of that king. He's the one that stole the books. And then when he opened the trunk and he saw right on top was the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he felt really bad. He'd stolen these valuable treasures. But when Srinivas came, he gave them back. And then that king became such a devotee. I heard, I never went to that area, but where his kingdom was, there's so many temples. He built temples everywhere. And he had a law, like everyone had to follow the regulative principles. Everyone had to chant japa. That was the law. So a real king can do that. See? Now they make laws that you can't chant, and you can't worship God, and you can't, they make laws that you have to do all kinds of things, but except worship. There's another letter. This was written in 1972. My first concern is my books shall be published and distributed profusely all over the world. Practically, books are the basis of our movement. Without our books, our preaching will have no effect. Prabhupada said that many times in different ways. What good will your 3 minutes talking do if they don't get a book, But at least sometimes, we leave them with a good impression, and eventually they'll get a book. And that's what happens. Every book distributor experiences it. Some people say, oh yeah, I've seen you people so many times. Or, I don't know, anybody ever I get that once. I used to get anyway, not anymore. Yeah, you're nice. I didn't like the other Hare Krishnas I met, Thank you. But then I realized that's because they got purified by all the different devotees they rejected. Finally, they're able to appreciate a devotee, and then we think, oh yes, it's a good thing I'm here because these other devotees are too rough. But they're getting purified just by hearing the holy name, by seeing a devotee, by touching the book. All these things are going on, Now, this is something Jayapataka Maharaj put up. Think how you can distribute Bhagavad Gita, 2.5 million. We are trying to distribute in the months of November and December and January 2.5 million Bhagavad Gitas. Think how you can distribute Bhagavad Gita. Your neighbors, friends, student colleagues, work colleagues, to anybody, to shop where you buy your provisions, have everyone buy a Bhagavad Gita. It's the best Christmas present, right? You're looking for a Christmas present. Many people now, oh yeah, somebody would like this, They don't care about it themselves, but they know my cousin or somebody interested in this stuff, and they don't know what to get for them. So last year, I think they did 1.3 million, so it's quite a big, double it, It's a big goal. But last year, I count 80% of those were distributed in India. And then probably at least half of the ones distributed outside of India were to Indians. So it's mercy that we had the Indians to help us. But everyone is a spirit soul, and other people we have to, more tapasya, more endeavor to wake them up. But books are the basis. Otherwise, they can't get too much. It says, Prabhupada's books are not ordinary books. They cause a transformation of the heart and make people become spiritually successful. That's Bhakti Rasamrita Swami is putting up every day, something like that. The books are like an oasis. Bhakti Marg Swami wrote a poem, books are the basis, they come in many cases, something like that. And purity is the force. Prabhupada said, purity is the force. If people see that we're really strict, we're really following our principles, then they'll be impressed, and we'll have power, Bhakti Marg Swami. Books are the basis, they come in many cases, and we go to different places. Contents evoke happy faces, leaving many holy traces. Purity is the force. Taking us to the great source is something to endorse. Can't learn it from any course. Lose it and you will remorse. Preaching is the essence. Reaching young, old, adolescence, the service of super excellence. Gaining Krishna's acceptance. In giving we feel his presence. Utility is the principle. The state of being useful, sensible, practical, and comprehensible, balancing maximum, minimal, the key to reaching the pinnacle. That goes along with that letter. Now, some years ago, devotees got down and there was a lot of opposition and different crazy things were going on, and they made bucks are the basis. Bucks, money, bucks are the basis. Futility is the principle. And preaching is the essence. Books are the basis. Preaching is the essence. Utility is the principle. Purity is a farce. Huh? What? Management? I didn't hear it. I don't remember that one. Management is very important, but it has to be, it can't function. What's the use of it? There's so many great managers in the world, in the material world, and sometimes they get in our movement and they want to manage the exact same way, and they don't care about the essence, because they don't know. They just know they can pay the bills, they can keep the temple clean, hire people to do everything. But the essence has to be, the Prabhupada said, when the preaching is strong, then management follows. Because a devotee manager gets enlivened when the preachers are fired up, and they try to support them. I know myself, when I was new in the movement, I was householder, and book distribution was just getting started, actually. So one letter came, and Prabhupada said, these boys and girls who are distributing my books, they should get very nice prasadam, and they should get extra rest. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll do that. That sounds good. So that used to be, and I guess here, the book distributors get all the Mahaprasad, and because it's, but every devotee is special. Like in the army, there's a small percentage that's actually on the front lines, But for them to be there is a huge number of people working, so that they can fight, right? The Indian Railroad has a motto to keep the wheels turning. So not so many people are driving the trains or riding, but it's the biggest employer in the world or something. How many people are working to keep the tracks in good shape and keep the engines running and cooking and all the selling tickets and all the things that had to be done so the train can go. Much more. So everything is, if everyone just has the consciousness that I'm cooking, so that not only the devotees that are going out are healthy and strong, but when guests come, it'll be really good and they'll be really enlivened. We're dressing the deities, we're decorating the temple, cleaning the temple, because it enlivens everybody for preaching. And it is preaching, because people come and when they see the temple's really nice and devotees are really nice and greeting them, then they feel enlivened and they think this is a good place, So, and then they want to join. So that's our real mission. We're learning all these things about the demigods and the elements, and it's obviously some importance is there, otherwise it wouldn't be so much in the Bhagavatam. Because when you get to that conclusion that none of this goes on without Krishna's will, it's all expansions of Krishna. So we can a little bit understand, the demigod creating planets and stuff, or whatever they do. But then to know that they're all just servants of Krishna and they can't do anything without Krishna's sanction, we get some idea how great is Krishna. But nobody that worships demigod, I never heard of anyway, loving relationships or anything like that, right? They want something, You don't develop a friendly relationship with Indra or Yamaraj. But if you worship Krishna, you do become friendly with all the demigods. But you don't have to separately endeavor for that. But they honor the devotees. They're devotees. They honor the Vaishnavas. But Krishna is coming, like we see demigod murtis in India, like huge murtis. There's no way you'd think of like some of these Shiva murtis that are huge things. And in the Orient, the Buddha, they have these giant temples, the Buddhas, and so many temples, huge Buddhas, and they're up like way high up. You can barely see them up there. So there's no question of like loving exchange or anything. Which is a beginning, it's good. But Krishna comes and he's a nice size and you can dress him and you can see him very nicely, and he likes to eat nicely and he likes to see the devotees get the remnants, and you can dance for him and chant for him. We have personal relationship, and that's what the whole thing is all about. In order to cultivate that, we need to hear from Prabhupada, we need to read the Bhagavatam. That's giving the light so we can see in the darkness of this Kali Yuga, we can see through the darkness. Even a little light, people are in ignorance. Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, they came for the same reason. And so at verse 2 or 3 in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodato Gododaya Pushpavanto Chitro Samdo Tamodado, the same, that they've arisen like the sun and the moon at the same time. Sometimes they're both up, but one's going down, one's coming up, and they're on opposite sides. But this is like they're right in together. And to dissipate the dense darkness of Kali Yuga, they appeared. It doesn't take much, that people get just a little hint. Even if they just hear the holy name or they get one little on-chanting or something, we should get really excited about that, rather than think, they won't take the book. But once I was in, I don't know if it was New Mexico or someplace, they have this bat cave. Every night, like for about an hour, it seems like these bats come flying out. They look like a dark cloud. So you can go down in this cave, really deep, and it's totally dark. You can't see anything, There's nothing. And it's really big, because all these bats are hanging from the ceiling. And then the guide lights one match. And just from that one match, you can't see like really details, but you can see everything. You can see the whole place. One little match. So that's one person gets enlightened a little bit. One person even appreciates devotees. It's a huge thing for the world. The world is suffering so much, and how does that verse in the Bhagavatam? They're unfortunate, misguided, and above all, always disturbed. And by Kali Yuga, and no amount of medicine or herbs or exercise or, all the things that are being offered or counseling or seminars is going to change anything. Just make you feel good for a little while. Still going to die. Still have no idea what life is all about. Just get in more illusion. If people get good lifestyle and good diet and more to goodness a little bit, they'll feel better, but unless the devotees rescue them, they don't know they're not this body. And next body will be a healthy dog or something. So devotees have an obligation. Krishna helped us, devotees have helped us somehow or other. Most devotees, it's because they met a devotee that took the trouble to go out on Sankirtan and was making himself available to the people. Or sometimes just, in some places, if you just make a temple, people will come. India, anyway, or a place where there's a lot of Indians. But even that is because someone took the tapasya, like Prabhupada did. So much tapasya to get all the temples built. London, how they, by good fortune, they could stay at John Lennon's. And so long it took to find a place, and then they had to build it, get all kinds of permits, and just by Krishna's grace, people helped them, even though they were illegal building and everything. And then to get the manor, I just read like George Harrison was really into it. He was going to buy him a place. And he was driving Jananjaya around. But every time they saw him, they raised the price, So then he said, you just find something and I'll just pay for it, don't mention my name, So they got the Bhaktivedanta Manor. And whoever sold it took all the doorknobs and all the valuable stuff they could take. Same thing in Detroit. When they looked at it, there was so much far out furniture and everything. But when they actually bought it, it was all gone. The owner, the sales, whoever, they just took everything. But they still got the place. But Prabhupada just traveled like crazy, and he inspiring devotees, and not after, even in spite of all that, he was always translating in the night. Prabhupada would say, well, I can't sleep anyway, I have this ringing in my ears or something. But if we know anything, that wasn't the reason. He was just so enlivened. He wanted to get those books into the hands of the people. Because people that have the really bad ringing in their ears, they don't focus their mind. Sometimes they kill themselves. One of our devotees was the ear doctor. He said he had people just pounding their head on the table because it's so painful, this ringing. But Prabhupada, he just couldn't sleep because he had this mission. And he stayed clear-headed all day. He'd take his walk and preach like unbelievably to any kind of person or anything that came up, and then he'd give the class, and then he'd meet people, then he'd answer, 15 or 20 letters a day. With some letters he wrote 3 or 4 pages, all details of everything. He didn't just say thank you for your, if they asked questions, he would answer all of them. So we're very fortunate that we're here, and Prabhupada is still with us, because just like when Krishna left, the Bhagavatam appeared. Prabhupada left, the Bhagavatam was already there, and it's still coming. And Bhagavad Gita is always there, this special mercy. And they're non-different than Krishna. You want to associate with Krishna, you want to associate with Prabhupada, all we need to do is read the books. And if we want to distribute them, we need to read them. And pray that people will come that want to hear about, Krishna. They want to know what's the purpose of life. Some people have some idea. Manusyanam sahasreshu kasya giridi sadaye yatatam api sadanam kasyan mam veti tattvataha. So the demigods are keeping, basically the things are still going on. There's still rain and there's still sunshine and there's still water and all the things that we all need to live, and we should take advantage of it and thank them. But by worshiping Krishna, the demigods are very automatically pleased. And all our debts to the demigods, to the forefathers, to our immediate families, to the society, everything is covered when we give everything to Krishna. So we thank all these devotees for going out, and all the people that are helping, sponsoring books. One way or another, give them a book. The books are the basis. They come in many cases and they go to many places. You never know where they're going to come up, Even college professors, when devotees were going, one professor said, "Oh yeah, I have that book. I found it in the trash can at O'Hare Airport." So somebody bought it, somebody donated. But at airport, sometimes a person would get it by the devotees, and then they'd look and see it's not Christian or something, and they'd leave it. But, when you're in the airport, I've forgotten a few things. You're sitting there half asleep, and then all of a sudden it's time to run, and you realize you left something behind, but it's too late, So many books got left on the tables and on the chairs. And then the janitors were picking them up, and we would buy them back for 50 cents. So they were all looking for books all day long. When they're cleaning up, they're looking in the phone booth, they're looking everywhere in the trash can, and they'd come, "Hey, Krishna," come back in the stairway, and they got 20 books or something. So everybody was getting benefited. And then some of them would keep it and read it and really like it. So any comments or questions? Not so scientific today. If you want to understand the universe according to us, Sadhaputa's classes are all on YouTube, and he had, like Prabhupada could explain all these amazing spiritual things like so simply. He could go in the library and read all about some subject and then explain it in a few words perfectly so that anybody could understand it. He was really empowered for the scientific preaching, which is important because there's a lot of scientists. Okay, any comment, question? Everybody's fully satisfied? Do you remember the poem? Leaving many holy traces. Contents evoke happy faces, leaving many holy traces. Purities of force. Huh? Yeah. It's in my Facebook, but it gets buried. I'll send it separately. And there, I made one also. Books are the basis. They're a holy oasis. I couldn't think of any other. But we try. And we never know. There's no hard and fast rules. Krishna appreciates the effort, and we're purifying the whole planet by chanting in public and letting people hear the holy name, the whole universe. All right, so we can stop early. Everyone can get moving quicker. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Transcendental Book Distribution ki jai. I don't know if we want to hear this course from other places where, individual devotees are doing hundreds of books a day and stuff. Prabhupada once said, I think it was about Japan or Hong Kong, it was one of them or both. One back to Godhead there is like 1,000 somewhere else, So New York, see the boys in Atlanta, people are buying 4 stacks at a time and stuff like that. So I don't know what the ratio is, but, one here is worth 20 there or something, Because the same distributors here, they didn't do like that. They did good, but they didn't do anything like they do there. Or what to speak of India, where everybody will take. Jai. Okay, somebody answer the door. Transcendental Book Distribution ki jai. Shri Radha Govinda ki